All right, this lecture is going to cover the fourth assignment, and it's going to be a relatively short one. We're just going to create some simple plants using some alpha textures, and I'll kind of show you how I do that. And hopefully it'll add a couple of more little tricks and techniques to your toolbox to use for, 3D modeling and stuff like that. So we're going to start simple with this. We're not going to make anything crazy like a tree or anything super involved. This is going to be relatively simple. And the point of this is to teach you how to use masks in Blender and texture masks for doing transparency for leaves or anything related to that. You can use it for clothing and some other things. But yeah, so that's what we're going to do. And whatever kind of plant you choose something simple and small. Try not to do like don't do like a succulent or anything kind of solid because that defeats the purpose of using a texture mask. Do something like flowers or grass or something that doesn't have a ton of branch structure or anything like that. And I kind of show you how that's gonna go. So in Photoshop, I have a couple of textures. I have this one and this one. This one is kind of painted. This one uses an image of some kind of tropical leaf here with the background cut out. So this texture is a targa, which is a .tga, and a TGA targa is an image that is lossless, so it doesn't lose any quality, unlike a JPEG, which has compression. This does not have compression, so it's good for maintaining quality. If you go to channels, you can see here in Photoshop, I have a red, a green, and a blue channel. I also have an alpha. So this is an extra channel you can add that can give you the black and white mask effect. So in Blender or a game engine or any other kind of 3D rendering platform, whatever is black is cut out, whatever is white will be shown. So it's a way to get some extra detail out of your stuff. Depending on what you're making, sometimes it's not practical to have a full foliage model with the leaves and every single thing modeled and stuff, especially if you're doing like large like trees and stuff. So this is a kind of good way to do it that's good on memory and kind of easy to make and gives you kind of like a cool effect. Um, but again, there's a lot of different ways to make foliage, and this might not be, the best way. If you're doing a full 100% quality 3D animation, maybe you might want to model all these components. But I'm going to show you how to do it kind of like the more game way, which can be used for real-time stuff. But yeah, so let's get into it. All right, so here's my texture. Here's this one. So I'm going to start with this one here and show you how to work with both the target and a PNG. So this is a target. So make sure that you have your black and white alpha here. And I'm just going to go to File, save a copy, and have done this before. So I'm just going to save it over Painted Leaves and then replace it. And then you're going to get this option window. Make sure you choose 32-bit. So this will include this alpha. Okay, let's go to Blender. And I kind of show you how to set this up here. So this is how I do it. And it works pretty well. You can do it the other way if you want, like model, then UV map, but this kind of saves a step. So I'm gonna just go to add mesh plane, and then I'm gonna add my texture here, and then just call this painted leaves. Go to base color, image texture, open. So for what we're doing, the mask will already come in automatically set up for us. So I'm just going to choose matte cap and texture. And you can see I have the mask. You can see how the mask works now that it's in Blender. Since this image is a rectangle, it's kind of getting squished on my square plane. So I'm just going to scale up my square plane. So that is a 1x2, and then Control A and just apply the scale. So now I have this here. This would be used for a lot of different plants that can share the same texture. And what I do is I can kind of cut them out from here. And then you don't have to really worry about UV mapping. Um, so I might go ahead and just use, maybe I'll use this one to make this kind of like plant looking thing. So I'm just gonna go to, and again, these are hand painted, so you can paint your kind of flat textures for this project if you want. Um, so I'm gonna cut it out. So I'm gonna go into edit mode. I'm gonna add some edge loops, Control Z, edge loops, and cut this out. Control R, really rough cut out here. And then go to face mode and then just delete these faces. So now I'm left with that. Um, so here, since I can keep it kind of primitive for what I'm doing. So I'm going to just do a couple of cuts here. Actually, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna get really close to the stem and just kind of do a couple of cuts here. Keep it pretty low. This would be really good for a game. I might kind of just take these corners off. You could just keep it a plane too if you want. But I like to give it a little bit of shape here just because it helps with like overlapping and kind of visualizing and things like that. Um, so I'm going to put a couple of cuts that kind of match the leaves. And so the reason I'm giving it a little bit of structure. That way it allows me some, yeah, I might actually like do this as well. So that I have 3 and 4 sided. Yeah, so same for this one. Yeah, I can almost just do that. Maybe I should, actually, maybe I should do that. Let me grab that. X, dissolve vertice. And then, well, maybe I don't. Let me see. I like it like following the stem though. Uh, I'll just do this. It's not a big deal. Control Z. Maybe I'll do it kind of a little closer like that. So this is so low poly, I could probably afford to do this. That's probably fine. Okay, so everything's like 3 and 4 sided and ready to go. So like I said, that gives me some resolution, so I could add some detail to the shape. Oops, I didn't mean to save it. Control Z. So from here, to make the plant, I'm just gonna, I'm in edit mode. I'm gonna snap to the top, do L to select the whole element, and then G to move. I'm gonna move it so that the origin is kind of at the stem here. That'll make building the plant a lot easier. And then, so from here, probably want to like rotate it up a little bit like that. And that's pretty much it. So that's the start of it. And then from here, you can sort of like mold it and duplicate it and make a little plant. So I might go to tab. Maybe I will shift D for duplicate, rotate on the Z, and then maybe make a couple of these. I don't know what kind of plant this is, by the way. I'm just kind of making it up. But I'm thinking of something that's more like low to the ground. Um, Not really a tall plant, but something that might be more kind of like this. So I'm going to go to select one of these, go to edit mode, go to vertices, go to X-ray mode so that I can select the faces on front and the back. And something that can kind of help you with organic editing is if you turn on this is proportional editing. So if I turn on proportional editing and I tap like R for rotate, for example, you can see when I rotate it, it kind of affects everything. Which looks kind of weird. Let me see. Yeah, okay. But so I'm going to do G for move and then use the mouse wheel to bring the influence down. And you can kind of see how it starts to influence the rest of the vertices. So I can grab like a whole section and rotate it. And you can start to get some edit here and it will kind of fade into the rest of the stuff. I can turn that off. So maybe just move just these down to create that kind of shape. And then maybe you might want to move that up and that up. And you can kind of tweak it and you basically just go through and just tweak. Also, you might want to shade smooth so you get some smooth shading. Go back to this mode. And then you just can kind of go through and do the same thing for the rest of them. Maybe I'll just duplicate this one. I don't want to spend too much time just like eating up video time by tweaking. Um, but you can just kind of rotate and just create a bundle of leaves. And, you know, obviously you can add some variation, like maybe scale some of them up a tiny bit and some of them down a tiny bit to add some variation. Um, Obviously you can go back into here and do proportional editing and probably go to X-ray mode, do some. And that's a very simple way to make some like kind of low poly simple plants here. And you can go do that as many times as you want. Keep, you know, making more variations if you want to. Maybe there's some smaller ones that are kind of coming in. But yeah, really simple. And you can kind of use masking in that way. And you can kind of build a little plant. So this is really good for these kind of like clumpy looking plants like this. Or it could be a clump of grass. You could also add like flowers to it. So for example, I don't have a good flower um, to add a plane here. I don't have a good flower texture, but pretend like you did. Like for example, so I'm gonna bring the plane back. So pretend like these, um, I don't know, these clovers could be flowers. Um, so let me just like cut out one of those. Let's do one of these 4-leaf clovers and pretend it's like a flower. And delete those faces. Move this face so the origin is in the center. And then maybe I will do, get the knife tool. Um, Control C. So for this, I might even do something like this. And you don't have to do it. You could have just kept it the way it was. If you want to. And you'll see why I'm doing this here in a second. And then let me just go to face mode, delete these faces I don't need anymore. X, delete. So I have like this kind of shape, right? Oh wow, I did kind of really mess that up. Look at this. This is a mess. This is no good. Let me select all of them, do M, collapse. So it collapses them into a single point. And then if you pull it down, see how I get that nice like flower, kind of flower shape, which looks kind of neat. Let me go back up. It's a little subtle. So now this could be Yeah, so let me turn this off, and then go to face, select everything, move it to the origin, back to object mode. And then here you could add these flowers in, um, wherever they might belong on the plant. Um, pretending that this is a flower of some kind. I don't know. So you can add different elements to the flower, like a flowered plant or a clump of grass or something like that. This is kind of a good way to, interesting way to do a plant. Um, so check the time. Okay, let's go back to Photoshop. So that was that. This is another image here. So this is using image or photo instead of a hand painted deal. So this could be for like some sort of stem and a leaf, obviously. So this one is built a little different. So this is in Photoshop, and there's no background here. You can see if I paint in the background, it's just blank back there. So you can also use PNGs. So I could take this, and the PNG will preserve the transparent background. So file, save a copy. Now I like Targets better because they, yeah, I said this before. They tend to look a little better, Targets do. Um, so in most 3D rendering situations, you have something called anti-aliasing, which will blend the pixels together. So sometimes you'll get in a situation where it'll blend these pixels with this like white, because it'll interpret that this blank background is just white. So you get this kind of like artifacting or kind of a halo around if you use this method sometimes. If you use the target method and you have the color of the background that's, relatively the same as the leaves, you'll get a much cleaner because it'll blend green with the green, get kind of a cleaner result. So that's something to look out for using this method. But you can save it as a PNG if you want, if it's easier for you. And then here in Blender, I could add a plane, and then I could just kind of move that out of the way. Same thing, new, all this tropical, and then image texture open. Let's see, I think that was called leaf test with a big E. There we go. And then just scale that, because that one also is a rectangle to accommodate the leaves. So here we go. And then the same thing here, you could go to tab mode and you could add a little edge there. You could delete that part of the texture. This one has a little bit of curve to it, so maybe you might want to do that kind of deal. Let's go to vertex mode so I can see the vertices. So it's pretty much the same as the other method. Um, I might actually trim it up a little bit. If there's like, if there's a lot of empty space, sometimes I do trim it up like this, especially when I can kind of fit the leaves in. So I'm losing a little bit right there, but I'm just gonna go with it. It's fine. And then just delete, 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 delete. So you can kind of do the same thing. Rotate, move, rotate, move. Yeah, so just doing the same thing, just kind of like cutting it out, putting the origin at the stem, and then, so now I have something, maybe this plant has lots of different kinds of leaves here, and you can rotate it, and you can do a plant kind of like that too. So, you know, kind of the same deal. And again, these are kind of more ground plants. You can do something that has like a stem structure if you want to. You can model the stem structure with like some thin polygons and put a different material on it. That's up to you. If you want to do something that's just kind of like a ground plant that doesn't have that much stem structure, or maybe they're just kind of like painted in like this, then that's fine. It'll kind of help keep it simple. Um, and then here, obviously, you know, you're gonna want to you know, select these elements. If I can even see them all. And then Control J so they have one plant. And that's it. So that's kind of how you do it. Now, as for the textures, you might be wondering, how do you make the target if you want to do it this way instead of the PNG way? And I'll show you how to do that really quick. Um, so once I have it cut out, what I might want to do is put a background. And usually you want to select colors that are close to the leaves. Since the outsides here are this kind of like reddish kind of color, I might get like the little paintbrush tool and then paint that as the background. Um, you can see actually the cutout was a little messed up here, so you know you could probably go back and oop, not like that on the leaf. You can kind of oh, that did not turn out good. So here's a trick in Photoshop. Since this is cut out, if you hold Control and click on the thumbnail, it'll select your subject here. And then maybe if you zoom in a little bit, you can use the spot healing tool. See if you can spot heal that little white halo. It's actually making it worse for some reason. Yeah, it's making it worse. It's not, let me do healing brush tool. Let me grab like a sample from this edge and see if I can sort of do, yeah, it's a little better. But anyway, you can fix that up if you want to. Um, but the point is to have the color background that you want. This one's actually really tricky because that red outline does kind of make the background tricky. But once you have this, you want to add your alpha channel here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do it, make my alpha here. So yeah, that is a layer. I'm going to make a new layer. Oh, that's delete layer, new layer. And I'm just going to double click and name this alpha. So I'm going to go to white, select white here. Then I'm going to control click to select that. Control click. Actually, I'll just do it one at a time. And click on my paint bucket and this new layer, paint that white. Control click on that, paint that white. So this will actually show up. And then make another layer. And then you're going to paint the black in this layer underneath. Go back to alpha, Control E, or right click and do merge down. And then it'll merge those together. And then it messed up my name. So I'll just change it back to alpha. So this is my alpha, right? And I can Control A to select all, or go to select all. And then Control C for copy, or edit copy. And then now I copied this. I don't need it anymore, so I'm just going to hide it. Go to channels, make a new channel, Control V to paste, and now that's pasted in my alpha. So there's my alpha. Now I'm only viewing my alpha, so I'll go back to RGB so I can see everything. So now I have my alpha in there. I have my background. And then if I were to go to File, Save a Copy, and go to TGA, I'm going to call this Tropical Test, and then save it in there, 32-bit, and then go back to Blender. And then I'm going to add a plane. And then this will be the last thing I do before I set you loose. So go to image texture, open, And yeah, tropical test Targa. There it is. And you can see still works the same. And it's using a Targa instead of a PNG. So there you go. So for this assignment, make yourself a little plant texture, make yourself a little plant here, um, and understand how to use masking and things like that. And again, masking can be used for multiple applications besides just plants. You can also use it for um, like fabric or windows or anything you need cut out, right? Um, it's good to know how to do it. And that's it. So submit your Blender and your file and your screenshot, and hopefully this is helpful.